thank you for giving me your time to come watch me present this morning. If you don't mind, I'm going to quickly pan out to all of you and have you introduce yourself and say your occupation.
My name is CJ Hill. I'm a night audit and front desk manager for Comfort Suites.
My name is Caleb. I'm a law enforcement officer in Matthews.
My name is Hallie, and I'm an ACTS manager at SPC.
Thank you. Okay, today I would like to share with you my individual portion of a group project on conducting business in Canada. So today, topics that I'm going to cover is any general knowledge that you need to know about social customs and food, housing, and clothing. Starting with social customs, I want to cover 3 main points: greetings and introductions, body language, and just some other tips to consider, just some general things you need to know whenever you're conducting business in Canada. So, beginning with greetings and introductions, the most respectful and most widely accepted way to greet someone in business is a firm handshake with eye contact. Eye contact is important because it establishes confidence and you can kind of make the other person feel at ease with you. There may be a brief exchange of pleasantries, and then you kind of get down to the business. Canadian business is very direct, and so they usually, have a good exchange where they meet each other and then they get to the business portion. Authority is always based on business position and rank. It is not discriminatory on gender, race, age, anything like that. So basically your authority comes from your business position and the responsibilities associated with that position. General greetings and surnames can be Mr. or Mrs. or Miss, and then in some parts of Canada, Monsieur or Madame, because there's a very strong French influence in certain areas like Quebec. And you can also address them by their title, such as doctor. For your body language, like I said before, strong eye contact is very important throughout negotiating. In some areas, people may kiss on the cheek, such as Quebec again, with greeting, and this is not everyone, so this should not be assumed as something that you can do with everybody. Sometimes it's just close friends, sometimes it's co-workers. Generally, people stand about 2 feet apart. Avoid excessive gestures and touching, so whenever you're talking, don't make very big gestures, don't talk loud or boisterously, and avoid excessive touching of other people. And also, another thing is to avoid making the V sign. It's also like the peace sign. It can be considered offensive to some. Some other tips that you should consider is that many Canadians do have asthma or allergies, so avoid wearing strong perfume or cologne. This could be a threat to them. Do not send white lilies if you're sending a business gift because they signify death, but know that business gifts are commonly acceptable, especially after closing a deal. It's good to have a business card with English on one side and French on the other because a lot of people do speak French and there's a big French influence in a lot of parts. Business is usually handled directly and thoroughly, so avoid being evasive or trying to cover up the facts because a decision will not be made until all the facts are at hand and everyone feels comfortable with it. Punctuality is definitely a must. People will not wait more than 10 to 15 minutes after the assigned meeting time for you. And definitely avoid comparing America with Canada because this is very offensive. Don't go into Canada assuming that you're going to have success based on your business experience in America. So moving on to food, housing, and clothing. For food, the Canadian food is notable in both scale and diversity, and so they have very big dishes, and in their dishes, meat is a very significant portion. Usually there's a big meat entree, and then there's sides that accompany it. There's a wide diversity in ethnic dishes. You can find anything from, Chinese, Korean, Italian, and then there are some foods that are uniquely Canadian, like maple syrup, but others you can basically find, almost any kind of food there. Lunch is usually associated with business the most. It's usually shared with coworkers. Usually does not involve alcohol. It is a social event, but it can also be acceptable to just eat on the go that is more and more acceptable with the modern day in the fast food industry. Dinner is the most social meal. It is often shared with family, but the invitation is extended to non-family members as well. Holiday meals are special in the way that they include traditions. Sometimes it includes a specific way of eating, a specific utensil that you use, and it varies by the holiday. So if you're going to attend a holiday event, it's good to ask your host before you attend. Potluck dinners are common, and they represent another business opportunity because they are a sense of community among friends or coworkers instead of family. And this is usually whenever people bring a dish and they share it with everyone at the event. Moving on to housing, British, and there's a big French and British influence in the architecture, and a big thing that I read about was the bylaws and the maintenance requirements for your property vary by different areas. So before you go into the housing market, you definitely should look at that, because there are bylaws that state that you have to hold a certain maintenance of your property. Some different types of housing in Canada are condominiums, apartments, houses, duplex, triplex buildings, a lot of the same things that you see in the kind of cities in America, a lot of the same housing styles. Privatized spaces are very important for business, so you will see people conducting business in restaurants or in houses even. For clothing, the main thing is that the weather dictates how you dress. So to avoid being embarrassed or have people kind of look at you, definitely dress weather appropriate. It is very cold in some parts, so layering clothes is a very common thing. For business, clothing styles are more conservative, and they wear more neutral colors with classic lines. So just, like the business pantsuit and blouse for women, it's just more conservative and very professional. So this wraps up everything that I wanted to cover and share with you all on conducting business in Canada. And thank you again, and I will have any questions if anyone has any questions now.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we know why white lilies are a threat?
White lilies, it's kind of a part of their tradition. It's symbolic of death. And so it's just kind of something that someone might not be necessarily offended that you sent that, but it would be kind of offbeat of you to send it. It wouldn't signify, a good advancement in business together. It would kind of come off as something else. So kind of like, red roses are romantic. It's kind of the same concept.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes?
Is French everywhere in Canada, or is it just in remote places?
French is not everywhere in Canada. There's a big French influence. The place I read about the most was Quebec, but don't assume that everybody speaks French, but it's just a good thing to have French on the back of your car just in case, since it's a big language in Canada. Okay, thank you.